Hi class, how are you today? The learning target for today is to multiply polynomials. So again, this is a review from last year, but it was the last thing we learned last year. So here's a scale. If you are a 3, you can multiply polynomials. You're a 2 if you can multiply binomials. Now, reminder, what's a binomial? A binomial is a polynomial with only 2 terms. So, say x plus 3 times 2x minus 4, as an example. You can do something like that. Polynomials, it would be any size. Whether there's 3 terms, 4 terms, 5 terms, you can do them all. We most likely will only go up to 3 terms though. So the biggest you'll see is something like this. 2x squared plus 4x minus 1 times x squared minus 2x plus 5. Something like that. A 1, you can multiply a monomial by a polynomial. That's using the distributive property. Something like this. 5x squared times 3x plus 1. You can do that. And then 0, you cannot multiply polynomials. Alright, so for this video, I'm going to have 3 examples, and each one is a step on the scale. So the first one, to be a 1, you can multiply a monomial by a polynomial. So here we have the monomial, and here's the polynomial. So it's just using the distributive property. Multiply everything here by everything in here. So first step, multiply negative 5x squared y times 3x squared. So we have negative 15, because negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Then add the exponents. So x to the 2 plus 2, which is 4. And then there's a y here, but no y here. So the original y just stays there. Then we take this and multiply it by 9y. So negative 5 times 9 will give us a negative 45. And then x squared here, but no x's here, so the x squared stays there. Then y times y. So to the first, 1 plus 1 is 2. So y squared. Then negative 5x squared y times negative 8 x to the 4th, y to the 5th. So remember that negative times a negative will give us a positive. Then 5 times, then x squared times x to the 4th, 2 plus 4 is 6. So x to the 6th. And then y times y to the 5th, so 1 plus 5 is also y to the 6th. And then remember, this is x to the 4th y, this is x squared y squared, this is x to the 6th y to the 6th. They are all completely different, so they are all separate. You cannot add any of these. So this is just your answer. Alright, now for the next step in the scale. A binomial, 2 terms, times a binomial, 2 terms. So it's the same principle you're using the distributive property, except you need to multiply everything in here by everything in here. So, let's start with 2x. So we want to multiply 2x by the first term in the second binomial, x. So, first term times the first term. So 2x times x will give us 2x squared. Remember, add the exponents. X times x is x squared because 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay? Then we take the first term again and multiply by the second term. So 2x times negative 3 will give us a negative 6x. Then 2x, we've done everything with the 2x, so now we want to multiply the last term by each of these. So 5 times x, which will give us a positive 5x. And then second term times the second term. 5 times negative 3 is a negative 15. Now you can look at these and say, are there any like terms to combine? Well, x here, x here. Remember, they have to be exactly the same. So this is an x squared, not the same as an x. This has no variable, so it's not the same as anything with a variable. Okay? So these two can combine. So we've got the 2x squared can't combine with anything, so that drops down. And then negative 6x plus 5x. And then the minus 15 doesn't combine with anything, so it drops down. Can't combine anything past that, so that is our answer. Alright, now for the last example. We have x squared minus 4x plus 9. This is known as a trinomial, because there's 3 terms, times 3x minus 2, a binomial. So what you need to do is multiply everything here times everything in here. So, start with first times the first, x squared times 3x. X squared times 3x will give us 3x to the third. Then, x squared, the first term, times negative 2, the second term. So that will give us negative 2x squared. Then we have the second term, 4x, negative 4x, times a positive 3x. Negative 4x times 3x will give us a negative 12x squared. Negative 12x squared, because remember, x times x is x squared. Then, negative 4x times negative 2. So that will give us, negative times a negative is a positive, 4 times 2 is 8x. Then we have the last term, 9, times the first term, 3x. 9 times 3 is 18, 27. So a positive 27, and then x. And then 9 times negative 2, which is a negative 18. Then again, we look at what terms can we combine. Combine like terms. So, x cubed, not another one of those. So that stays 3x cubed. So then we have an x squared here and an x squared here. These two can combine. So negative 2x squared minus 12x squared. That'll give us negative 14x squared. Then 8x plus 27x, two x's. Add them together, 8 plus 27 is 35. So 35x. Remember, when you add them, you do nothing to the exponents. So the variables stay exactly the way they were when you added them. Okay? And then the minus 18 here drops down. So minus 18. All separate exponents, x cubed, x squared, x, and then nothing. So can't combine anything else. Alright, that's it for the video. Now for the sponge. Simplify each expression. So you've got 7x squared times x squared minus 5x plus 9. In the second problem, 3x plus 5 times 2x minus 8. In the third problem, 2x minus 3 times x squared plus 5x plus 1. So attempt those three. Remember, you do have to attempt the sponge. And then if you get them all right, you get a bonus point on the next test. And once again, please remember to circle at the beginning of the lesson the scale at which you believe you fall at. So now that the video is over, please go back and circle whether you think you're a 3, 2, 1, or 0.